this isn't like J.J. Abrams wrote this. This isn't like the Game of Thrones or important characters can die at any random moment. This is this is a thriller. You're supposed to care about the characters and when they die, they're supposed to die heroically. Here, this guy, his name is the character Billy Freeman, played by Cliff Curtis. He goes out like a bitch. He's like,
but I feel like that was kind of another thing that happened that happened in the original Shining. I think there were a couple of characters who were not supposed to die. Yeah. Obviously, I think Danny was not supposed to die. Maybe a couple of others, but again, they probably did the whole Kubrick thing, and they killed someone off, like they killed the black chef in the original Shining, which. Of course,
I haven't seen that movie since I was 10, so I don't remember much about it.
Again, he comes back in this movie. And,
and there's some things in the movie that made me feel like this was meant to take place much earlier, because like there's the girl, instead of using her smartphone to look up people, she goes to her school and she physically prints out a piece of paper with the missing children who she is able to like see in her dreams, that's how she's able to find them. And why don't you just email this guy a link to the kids instead of having to...
She doesn't have the email.
Or not well, she can telekinetically talk to him. So why doesn't she just like say, hey, give me your email? This is much easier than me pounding the word Redrum onto your walls
Redrum once again.
That just felt like it was there for fan service.
I think this one kind of had a purpose.
Yeah. So the way he's able to convince his friend, played by Curtis, whatever his name is, the way he's able to convince his friend, say, I have psychic powers, you have to believe me. His friend's like, oh, you? And you know who this dead kid is? Okay. And he just believes him. Instead of saying, holy shit, you know who this dead kid is? How is that possible? Like, why don't you have a scene where Danny's showing him his psychic powers to make him believe, instead of having him go along and say, oh, you have psychic powers and you knew the exact location this dead kid was? Oh, you must be psychic. It's not like you can be involved in the murder or anything, and I'm not going to question you. That was just so stupid. I'm like,
what are you talking about? This, I feel like, there is a lot of hesitation between, especially on Danny's part, because again, this is a guy, he's recovering from alcoholism. Yeah, a lot of the trauma comes from having to deal with...
Yeah, and he's known this guy for 7 years. This guy's his friend who's helping him recover from alcoholism. And, like I said, he just automatically believes him that he's magic and has psychic powers. Like, I mean, I know that for 7 years. I've known Emil for like 15 years. If he told me he had psychic powers and he knew where a dead body was, I wouldn't say, oh, you must be psychic. I'd be like, how do you know this dead body was here? Are you involved in anything?
All I'm saying is that there is a lot... There is a lot that needs to...
You fine tuning.
You need to have like a suspension of disbelief, and
there's a difference between suspension of disbelief and suspension of insanity. Okay.
Look, I don't know how much detail the novel goes into having
I'm not knocking the novel. I'm sure it's much better. The book is like 99% of the time the book is better than the movie, so I'm sure the novel is much better. No, we're not dissing Stephen King. He's a great writer.
I don't know. There's a lot to really unpack for several characters, especially when you're trying to convince your friend that about certain things.
Yeah, and the scene that made another scene that I was kind of like, what about, was when the friend, played by Curtis, whatever his name is, when the girl uses her psychic powers to make him kill himself, saying, you will shoot yourself. I'm like, he should have known at this point these people had psychic powers. Why didn't Danny just say, okay, these people are psychic and they can control minds. I don't think you should be here. This isn't safe for you. If he cared about his friend that much, he wouldn't bring his friend into battle with a bunch of psychic demons that can control people's minds. I mean, he's immune to their psychic...
He's the one who had the guns, though. He's the one who had the guns.
Yeah, just borrow them from him. Don't get your only friend involved in a battle against the psychic demon motherfuckers. Like,
do you think Danny would have learned how to shoot a gun?
Yeah.
I don't even know. Personally, it's...
he just goes out so easy. Like, have him die a hero's death. I just wish you'd have done that.
I think that's something they changed from the book for something. I don't know how, but again, I mean, there is a lot to really unpack, but personally, this is what I think. I think it's a, I think, because me personally, I know, I, I could remember what exactly the whole what the characters were like back in the original film. Danny didn't have too much to do, but what we saw with him was through like the trauma that he had to go through definitely carried out, and the only way to really channel it and confront it was to have people he trusted. He trusts Billy. He trusts the kid Abra, and he has to be able to. Sometimes there aren't exact ways to really convince them apart from apart from maybe having the kid show she had psychic powers. Especially there's this scene where Abra's father is he ends up like when Danny and Billy pull up to the house, he goes he's reasonably a little
angry at him.
A little angry.
Yeah. So what I yeah, go on.
And the only way to convince him is to have Abra show that she has this power, and what she knows, what she's been able to collect with it.
Yeah. So for me though, I think this movie's biggest flaw is that it's trying to be so big. It's too big for its own good. The Shining works because it was a small film that took place in a remote area. I like horror movies that take place in small areas, like The Thing, The Shining, movies where you can't go to anyone for help, or like you're trapped in an enclosed area. This movie, they could have gone to the police, but they're like, oh, you can't go to the police because they have.
Yeah, that
they give some bullshit excuse where they don't go to the police.
Yeah, they should have taken out that detail.
And like it feels like they're trying to make a superhero horror cinematic universe. Like, we don't need a cinematic universe.
I don't think they were trying to do that. I feel like they were trying to.
There's more of us out there.
They're trying to close out the. I think their biggest important was just to close this sort of chapter, because I don't think they were. I mean, if they open up another chapter about this, that's And I don't think they should. They don't leave it too open. I think they wanted to close the door.
Yeah, they did a good job on closing it on Danny. But now we know that there's more of these psychic people out in the world. So now it makes me feel like they're trying to do the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe thing.
I don't think they're doing
twist.
that. I really don't think. If they do, at least. I don't know.
I mean,
I feel like it's an okay springboard, but I'd suggest that they don't try it.
Yeah, maybe like a TV spin-off, I'm not sure, but don't make like, okay, I mean, this movie took 39 years to make, because it was 39 years since The Shining came out, nearly 40 years, and now the first thing you do, it feels like, is like, okay, we waited 39 years for to make a sequel. Let's make a sequel just to springboard.
I don't think they're doing that.
Springboard more sequels.
Well, I don't think they're trying to. I don't think they're trying to do that. But they have.
I wouldn't mind more sequels if they were if they were like had a purpose. But if you go too big in a horror film, like,
look, come on, it's just. It's just one step.
I know.
The
next thing you know, they're going to have like secret government agencies.
They're not going to do that.
Experimenting on little kids and stuff.
Jesus. All right, look.
Sorry.
Okay. As you can tell, this movie does...
Very divisive.
It does kind of suffer from the similar things that It Chapter 2 ended up doing.
Yeah. It's nowhere near as bad as that movie, thank God.
Yeah, it doesn't...
At least this movie had competent acting and good directing. That movie was just balls to the walls insane.
At least it felt like a better chapter closer than It Chapter 2.
Yeah.
Because, I mean... And I think the reason why is because... they were taking from a film that deviated pretty far from the original Stephen King novel.
It? Or?
Dr. Sleep. Dr. Sleep was taking from The Shining, a movie that deviated so far away from the original novel, and now they have to bring... and now again, they kind of have to bring it back. A lot of it's taken from the film, and a lot of it's taken from both books, and you know, for the most part, I felt like they did a good part shaping the atmosphere at least.
Yeah, this movie was very atmospheric, which is one good thing I could say about it.
I think,
like I said, the first third was definitely the best.
it feels more like a good Blumhouse movie rather than like a kind of like a bad big budget jump scare movie.
Yeah, there weren't that many jump scares in this movie, and that's
there isn't.
That's good.
I think a lot of it. Yeah, and again, a lot of it took from Kubrick, and the sign of the more suspenseful idea, suspenseful. You know.
Yeah. And the one thing I didn't like is that was the action scenes, like with the guns. Like, we're supposed to believe that these people are like these immortal soldiers who have been fighting. They tell us that one of these guys has been fighting wars for hundreds of years, and they're supposed to be like knowledgeable in all sorts of weaponry and tactics, and they get taken out like flies by two guys one guy who's almost never shot a gun, and one guy doesn't even have any superpowers. So like, and it was just I don't know, the action scenes of this movie. This movie was a thriller, and it does thriller and suspense right, but action, no, it's not good for action. If you're coming here hoping to get like
again, this is a movie based on Stephen King,
yeah.
So a lot of it comes from. I mean, Stephen King is great at setting up horror scenes.
He is,
and I feel like a lot of the action they were trying to put in was just for the sake of making again.
Just for the sake of the trailer.
They get taken out by a gunshot because. They get taken out of a gunshot. I assume maybe it was just so they can just get over it because it happens pretty fast.
Yeah, so if you go, so you can't just go in this movie and think, okay, I'm gonna watch I'm gonna watch a fun horror film with some action. No, there's very little action. You have to go in this movie with the mindset, okay, I'm gonna watch a 2.5 hour long psychological thriller with lots of complicated dialogue and imagery and like supposedly important imagery. There's like a lot of important imagery going on here. That's like
again typical Stephen King.
Yeah. There was also a lot of product placement. There was a lot of product placement for Ruby, the Rooster Teeth show. And
I think that was just coincidence.
Yeah, maybe. And then there was what else there?
Although it was really cool.
For me though, I like the subtle moments of it. There weren't that many subtle moments in this movie, but the subtle moments that were there worked really well. There's a scene where this guy, who's pretty much immortal because he's lived for like hundreds of years, he's so full of himself that he thinks that because he can live, he has eternal youth, that he can just coast through life without having to worry about things. And there's a fun subtle scene where the girl's like, okay, you're pretty full of yourself. You think you're immortal, so you don't even bother.
That was a good one.
You don't even bother to buckle up. And then there's a scene where he's like, close to the bill, like, oh fuck. And then they crash in a tree. So moments like that where they show you how these people they're not invincible because through subtle means.
A lot of great scenes of
scenes like those are very rare in this movie. So when they are there, they stick out as being very nuanced and very well written and very deserved.
Again, this is good at. Again, a lot of importance was more set on visual, especially when we get back to the Overlook Hotel.
Yeah, so there weren't like I said, the subtle moments. There weren't many of them, but when they are there, they're noticeable, and you can appreciate them for what they are. Like it's funny,
which I think it kind of begs the question, I mean, how far are you gonna go on both ends? Base it off the original film, base it on the film, and then base it on the books, because they're two different beasts.
Yeah, so
one is like the film is very visually striking, hardly any dialogue, and
Shining or Doctor Sleep?
Shining.
Oh, Shining.
Hardly any dialogue, and or the books, which there's a lot of attention to detail, a little more quotes, a little more dialogue, and it takes a lot of the characters are a little more fleshed out than the ones you see, and I don't remember how long The Shining was, but I don't think it was as long as this.
I think it was 2.5 hours, same length. Look, maybe 2 hours.
Maybe a little,
minutes, maybe 10 minutes shorter. I'm not sure.
Because Doctor Sleep felt a lot longer.
Yeah, for me though, like I said, the third act was basically just shoving the first movie in your face again. You can do this.
I know this
the
was
first movie.
Well, we know this was in the look. I know this was in the original book, but I
Dr.
know.
Sleep?
Yeah, this is. I assume this was in the original book, but there is a lot of nods to the original Shining movie.
Yeah.
The bar scene,
No, like I said, there's nothing wrong.
The characters are dressed like they were in the original movie, and they say the same lines. "Come play with us, Danny," and while it does give us while this does give us a good return to while this does give us a good idea, having Danny be possessed by the Overlook Hotel itself, which happened in the original book with Jack, it does feel like they were trying to
be in your face about it.
Well, that too, but also kind of.
Now, I
what's the word? Go ahead.
Okay, in movies like Ready Player One, where everything is thrown in your face, that's the kind of movie it is from the beginning. Here, you're expecting something new. You're not expecting everything to be shoved in your face just for the sake of like nostalgia value or whatever. And movies like Ready Player One, which I really liked a lot, and a lot of people didn't like it, but I liked it. The whole point of the movie is to shove nostalgia in your face because that's the plot revolves around your nostalgia. Here, the plot is supposed to be it starts off trying to be something new, and then at the very end, it comes full circle.
Look,
and
a lot of reboots and remakes basically. Well, nowadays you kind of have to expect a bit of nostalgia factor from a lot of these reboots and remakes, and yeah, Doctor Sleep was very indulgent on that.
It wasn't like a masterpiece. Like, I mean, you're never going to top The Shining either. You're never going to make a movie like The Shining, especially with the director.
I do feel like they were trying to make up for what happened to Jack, what was supposed to happen.
Yeah,
to Jack
that was a good scene.
Back in the book, but yeah, make up for what happened to Jack in the movie, which was really good.
Another small subtle scene was when he's at the bar and he's hallucinating and he's thinking that he sees himself as his dad and he's like, I'm turning into my dad. That was a nice subtle scene. There wasn't anything like and it wasn't like an enormous. It wasn't in your face.
Yeah,
it was very subtle and very good.
What was that? Was that the barroom scene?
Yeah, the barroom scene. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really good.
Moments like that, like the moments where the little kid is outsmarting the older guy because you think you're immoral, that you don't even bother buckling yourself up because you don't like.
That is also a nod to the movie, but it's great that the roles are reversed now. It's the hotel's now taking in the form of Jack, which Danny obviously is trying to get over, which is really good. And again, this is why Stanley Kubrick changed a lot changed a lot when he made his version of The Shining, because the ending with Danny, while it is fitting for just because it's Danny Torrance and not Jack, it does take away from all the mystery that happened in the Overlook Hotel.
Yeah. Anything thoughts on the there's one thing I want to remember. Oh yeah, Ewan McGregor does a really good job as Danny.
Yeah, I thought he did pretty well.
Yeah, the casting was really good. Casting was good. Acting was good.
By the way, the ghost Halloran in this movie was played by the voice of Martian Manhunter, Carl Lumbly.
Nice.
Which is awesome, and he does a really good job, he does sound a little bit like Scatman Crothers, but I think the wise man role I think Lumbly does really well. I think it did really fit for this type of for his version, which is good.
Yeah. So overall, I thought it was a decent movie. It had some good genuine heart. This movie had heart. Okay. I know. I feel like I've been like on and on about it. Like I've been doing things like some small good things in between, like a lot of bad and small good things. But the small good moments, they really stick out, and the stupid moments, if you're just willing to, like Emil said, suspending to disbelief, or in this case, suspension of insanity, as I call it, you can get past that and enjoy a well-made, well-directed film. It's not a masterpiece like The Shining, but it is still a good movie in its own right, with some subtle moments and like I said, the action wasn't very good, but
Well,
yeah.
I think it was more directed towards the horror aspect.
Yeah, horror aspect.
Rather than anything else.
I'd say it's more horror than thriller. The movie was marketed as a thriller, but it's more horror than thriller. There's not much thriller. Thriller is my favorite genre, and thriller movies typically have more subtlety and nuance. This movie had some of those scenes, but I don't remember. The Shining had a lot of nuance, right? A lot of subtleties, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, this movie doesn't have as many of them, but it tries. You can appreciate what it tries to do. It's not a masterpiece, but it is a competent film. It's nowhere near as bad as It Chapter 2, and it's thankfully a Stephen King adaptation that I can say I actually is on my good list. Okay,
I would suggest.
I'd recommend this one, the original 1970s Carrie, the 2002 Carrie. Ever seen 2002 Carrie? Back in 2002, they made a TV mini movie about Carrie. They're gonna make.
I didn't
really
watch
good.
that.
It's funny. And Shawshank Redemption, of course. This one, Maximum Overdrive, and what's the other movie? And It Chapter 1. Those are the good ones.
It Chapter 1
was good.
Yeah, I think
those are the good Stephen King movies.
I think a lot of Stephen King fans will. It will have a hard time with Stephen King fans because I don't know how many people feel about how diehard Stephen King fans really feel about the original Shining movie, but since a lot of it's from the book, but I feel like this was. I think what they did was make the fans at least a little. I mean, if they're not really too happy about it, I think they'll appreciate that the makers of Doctor Sleep really wanted to.
They tried to tell their own story, and they did a good enough job to satisfy a general audience. It's good for a general audience. If you go into this movie thinking you're going to be like, oh, I'm a diehard fan of the first movie of the books, and therefore it's going to appeal to me, you might be disappointed. But if you go in thinking, okay, remember, you have to have the mindset. It's a 2.5-hour movie with a lot of thinking and a lot of like shock value.
It's not
not shock value, but a lot of in your face imagery.
And they adopt stuff from the. They adopt something from the books better than It Chapter 2 did.
I like the thing when she's like Mary Poppins and she's like going to people's dreams. That was funny. The lady played by, who's her name again?
Rebecca Ferguson.
Yeah, Ferguson. And she's playing Space Mary Poppins and she's going to her dreams. Has a funny scene.
Yeah, again, those are
Yeah,
a lot of that is due to the fact that they know that they have to make the really good horror moments. Again, it's Stephen King,
yeah.
so having that good element of horror really helps this movie.
Yeah. So any final thoughts of what you want to leave? Like, like I said, the acting was good. Pacing could have been a bit better. Directing was good. Script could have been a bit better, and the action scenes could have been better. But if you're, like I said, you can appreciate this movie for what it is. Just don't go in expecting a life-changing masterpiece.
Yeah, much like the original Shining was.
Yeah.